Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read Homestuck. In the last episode, Terezi found John and Roxy while they were being sad about Rose's dramatic death, which was really messed up, for various reasons. But also there was some dialogue between Calliope and Jade, and we're going to be starting with getting back to that, which is, well, it's not that large of a box, but it's certainly words. I'm starting to remember the things she told me so vividly now. It's amazing what a creative project can do to get your mind turning. What shall I draw first? The Land of Wind and Shade. That is where the story starts. I see. Which story exactly? Her story or yours? Both, as a matter of fact. My story began with a tragedy on Loas, which led to me meeting her in the first place. And then she used my memory of that tragedy as a starting point for her story, which turned out to be related. Ooh, fascinating. I love stories. I know. I'll start with mine, since that will make everything else make sense. So, go ahead and start drawing. What? Loas! Right. How's this? That is pretty good. Looks good. Don't forget to put a really tall house poking out at the top. Oh, yes, of course. So you say your story begins with a tragedy? What shall I draw next to depict this tragedy? Nothing yet. I'll get to that. But yes, the tragedy is why I was alone on the Golden Ship. It was not long after our 3-year journey began. I believe, like, as a side thing, I know that this is supposed to be Calliope drawing this, and she's really good at drawing, but I believe I follow on Tumblr the artist who actually drew these. I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but if I find them in the editing process, I'll put a link in the description. I was relaxing in our makeshift living room, giving John and Daysprite some space to themselves for a while so they could catch up. John wanted to visit his home again, so I happily obliged and shrunk them both down so they could hang out in his tiny tall house. It seemed like the nice thing to do, but I came to regret that decision more than any I've ever made. I was minding my own business when out of nowhere... Loas exploded! That's not how that goes. I couldn't believe it. It was totally inexplicable. There was no trace of them at all. They were both dead. I suppose it must have meant John's death was heroic, but I couldn't for the life of me imagine how. To me, it was as pointless and arbitrary as a death could get, or be. I looked within myself as hard as I could to see if there was some power I had, and all my omnipotence to bring them back, but I couldn't. They were gone. I would spend the next 3 years on that ship without my 2 best friends. Sure, there were still consorts and chess guys to keep me company, but the loss was too much for me to bear. I felt so alone. Weeks and months went by. I didn't have the slightest sense of how quickly or slowly time was passing. Any sense of purpose to reaching the destination had vanished, and, delicious though it was, no amount of Nana's cake would bring me comfort. Towards the end of the journey, when I was feeling particularly despondent... Dang. I fell asleep and had a dream. And that is when I met a very powerful, strangely charismatic creature. Her name was Calliope. Oh, wow. I always found it really cool that art can be done in such a way that even though it's all just colors, that it can just be contrasting like this. It's the fact that it's, for all intents and purposes, it's just black and white with some hints of green. I'm not an artist, what do I know? I'm sorry if this is disrespectful to people who are actually good at this, but just the fact that it's black, white, and some green, but it totally just, the shadows look so great. It just looks like there's actually glowing coming from behind her, and art is awesome. Art is awesome. As I said, she was somewhat like you, and yet so unalike. Her presence was so serious and grave. Her hollow eyes were piercing, but not hostile. But the prevailing sense I got from her was one of loneliness. Before she even said a word, I could feel it somehow, that this was a deeply lonely soul. Until I met her, I thought I was the loneliest person in the universe, but a feeling told me she had been here by herself for a long, long time. I felt sorry for her. And relating to her plight helped me overcome the feelings of intimidation, so we began to talk. We traded stories about ourselves. She spoke of the brother she killed. I spoke of the brother I lost, and when I mentioned John's death, that is when she became very serious again. She began to recount how John had died, repeating to me that the same story I just told you. She described the spontaneous destruction of Loas, which left me alone for years. I wondered why she was recounting this tragedy that happened to me, and for that matter, how she knew of it herself. She went on to say that Loas was destroyed because John's denizen had suddenly woken up. Typhoeus, a great monster of truly terrifying power. She said he had destroyed his land and slayed his own heir of breath, not out of malice, but to make a slight correction. I asked her, what do you mean, correction? She said that the John from my reality and his entire planet needed to be erased, and that the slumbering denizen in all of his mysterious wisdom knew this. He told me that the dreams of a denizen draw from the same well of potential from which every conceivable possibility arises, the same place Skya gets its power from. So, if an agreement with a denizen is reached in one reality, that same denizen in another reality could become aware of it and respond accordingly. It seems that John, somewhere, in some other plane of existence, had just made such an agreement. She said that the John I knew, like herself, was only one version of a person. There was a different version of John from another reality poised to play a more significant role. You see, John from that reality, in an act of desperation, had gone to see Typhoeus and struck a bargain with him. She would go on to explain that the nature of that bargain in the next part of her story, but from my perspective, the consequence of this bargain was to lose my friends, and to live with that for years without understanding why. Losing them still hurt, but I was so relieved to at least understand the reason, and to realize their senseless deaths were actually serving a bigger purpose. I thanked her for letting me know. She told me she was not human and had no frame of reference for empathizing with my feelings, but if there was one thing she could relate to, it was the feeling of being alone. The feeling of waiting for what seems like eternity by yourself until finally your purpose presents itself. Thought crumbs. I feel sorry for her. For myself, I suppose, but then again, that feeling is nothing new. It's an odd statement she made, though. What? Not having the frame of reference for empathizing with human feelings. If you asked me, I would say I have the advantage to relate to both humans and cherubs, so when you describe your feelings of sadness over losing friends, I'd have more than enough grounds for commiseration. Do you think that this version of me never what? Never had human friends like I did? I have no idea. What a strange thought. To grow up with only my brother for company, and not even have my human friends to get me by. What a dreadful fate, the poor thing. Maybe that was the difference. What let her predominate over her brother, whereas I was too, humanly socialized to succeed in my cherubic rite of passage? Could be. I don't know enough about cherub rites of passage to say either way. Human rites of passage is either, for that matter. So then what happened? Right. Anyway, that's when she began her story in earnest. The one she summoned me in my dreams to tell me. The story of the other John who made a deal with Typhoeus. It began with the same place mine did, Loas. So, go on. What? Draw Loas again. Oh. Wait, all over again? No, you can just copy the first one you did. What a lovely idea. I hate to hold up the pace of your exciting tale with a bunch of superfluous doodling. Good enough? Yes, but there are also supposed to be glitches around. Glitches? What do you mean by glitches? Like, computery glitches, I think. That sounds hard to draw. Okay, why don't we not worry about showing the glitches for this story? It would just make it harder to see what's going on, which is probably the point now that I think about it. The point? Of what? I never thought much about it. It just seemed like a weird detail she mentioned, but I guess it was some strange form of corruption in their session that made everything harder to understand. Where did the corruption come from? No idea! I guess it was just one more way everything got messed up for them, like just another surreal obstacle for a hero to overcome? Oh, that reminds me, you need to draw John there as well. Righto. There you go, one hero. Sans surreal obstacles. When she mentioned that I didn't give it a second thought, but now that I'm trying to reconstruct everything and tell you what to draw... I guess when you're trying to tell a story, it forces you to think a lot more about everything than when you were just listening to one. 'Tis quite true. Perhaps you should start writing? How did she begin? Let me think. Maybe we should pause before I go on. Pause? Like some sort of intermission, so I can collect my thoughts a bit and to give the audience a little breather between two significant arcs. We were at it for a pretty good while there, after all. What? Audience? Well, that would be you in this case. Oh, I know! I could do a little quick story about the antics of the silly consorts on the Golden Ship before moving on. One of the things I did to pass the time on the ship was give them funny names. Let's meet our cast of characters for this intermission, shall we? Let's see, there was... Bubbleuppagus, Tip Thips Ahoy, Knackby Nimble, Slowpoke Malone, Jade... Detective Glub's Budget, Fidgety Herbert, Dr. Snostages, Yiffy Yiff, or Yiff Yiff. Jade! Huh? I'm sorry, but I don't care about this right now. Your consort's friends are so very cute, and their names are silly, and I love them all. But I want to hear the rest of the story. Please, let's go back to illustrating her story. I'm so curious. Please, 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 please. Wow, okay, sorry. Yes, you're right. This is a stupid diversion. Let's continue. Callie, your hand. Oops. Pay no attention to that. Do carry on. So, anyway, like I said, she just finished telling me that she was able to beat her brother in this reality, but apparently that wasn't supposed to happen? So she lived out the rest of her life in a doomed timeline and eventually died. She didn't mention how. And then she did this kind of fancy transition. Darn. I don't think I'll do it justice. A transition to a story about my brother, who was stuck in a doomed timeline too. I think I'll mess it up if I try to match what she said word for word. She had a really fanciful way of putting things. There's no need to try and recite what she said. Just tell the story in your own voice as you've already been doing. It'll be more fun that way. Okay. So the bottom line was, almost all our friends had died, and John's only hope was to return to his planet and attempt to complete his personal quest. As you know, we all have personal quests that are unique to our planets. The nature of the quest is never easy to understand at first. They are presented to us through enigmatic riddles conveyed through the lore of the land. For John, it was the journey to the place where constellations dance beneath the clouds. It was that the air of breath was to free the stars from the shade and release them into heaven. This was just a mysterious way of saying what he really had to do. The stars were actually fireflies. They'd been flying around trapped beneath the overcast sky ever since John first brought Loas into existence by his arrival, and paradoxically, they'd been imprisoned there for ages even before that. Such is the way of our lands. They were newly born the day we arrive, and yet they always were. To free the fireflies, John would have to play a special song. It had to be played just right to summon the breeze through the pipes, but there was a problem. The pipes were all clogged with oil! The first day John came to his land, oil began oozing up from the core, flooding the pipes and filling the oceans. To play the song, first he would need to clean up the oil, and to do that, he would need to face the slumbering one himself. He would need to face Typhoeus. But as he wandered through the catacombs down to the planet's core, he wasn't thinking about freeing fireflies or cleaning up oil. He was seeking the help of his denizen to master a power he couldn't control. Luckily for him, denizens always seem to understand what you want, and more importantly, what you need, whether you know it or not. Is something wrong, Callie? Go ahead and draw Typhoeus. Oh, yes, you do know what he looks like, don't you? I believe I do. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just draw a big green snake monster. A big green snake monster, you say? Yes, a green snake monster with the most unspeakably hideous face you can imagine. But you don't have to be too literal about that. Feel free to draw something a little more representational. I'm not sure if I'm particularly comfortable rendering such imagery. Why not? It strikes me as rather indecent for reasons I would be too embarrassed to explain. That's okay, why don't I draw it? Very well, but you must excuse me if I giggle. Okay, but I don't see what's so indecent about a big old snake. Tee-hee! LOL. Ah. When John got to the core, he arrived to find Typhoeus awake and ready for him. He was then presented with the choice... Stop, you're going to make me crack up too. This part is serious. I apologize, please... Go on. Oh. Jeez. It sounds like pissed off dubstep wails. His choice was presented as a kind of riddle, spoken in a language only he could understand, spelling out the conditions he must accept. But speaking from experience, once a player is given the choice between two courses of action, it will hardly feel like a choice at all. If the heart is in the right place, then the right thing to do always seems obvious. So John accepted his denizen's terms, and with that... Typheus opened valves to the core and flooded it with oil. Well, that doesn't sound good at all. Doesn't look good either. There was no way out. He could not transform into wind because he was completely submerged. So he was faced with two possibilities. Either he could figure out how to make himself disappear completely using the ability he'd hoped to master, or he could drown in the oil. Drowning obviously would have been bad, but disappearing wouldn't be much better. He would appear somewhere else having made no progress on his personal quest. His planet would still be polluted and he would be no closer to playing his song. Somehow he understood the only way was to conceive of a third option, an idea beyond the simple binary set of outcomes before him, and interestingly, it was coming to this understanding which gave him the first glimpse of how to control the power. He realized it wasn't himself that he needed to make disappear. It was the oil! He dispersed every drop throughout existence. Is that how oil ended up everywhere? Huh. I sort of assumed that the imps had done that. As there's a Typheus in her house. Mah. So much oil. So much oil. Oil in the gushers. Oil on the yacht. Oil on the whatever the fuck that is. Oil, oil, oil. Leaving it a little mark for anyone who might notice, signifying his final mastery over his confining reality. More oil. Even oil with the dead trolls. And the dying trolls. And the hussies. And the froze frog. Oil for everyone. Blah! Even there? Dang. Oil everywhere. Oil on the Jaspers. Oil on the that. Oil in the book with the weird drawings. Oil on the dead earth. Isn't this in the middle of a flash? Nice abscond ×2 combo. If this oil really was all over the comic, I totally didn't notice it. I feel like it wasn't. I don't even think this has happened yet. That has. But more importantly, leaving his planet clean. And the pipes clear. Finally, they were ready to let the breeze flow. So he could play his song. Okay then. Well, I guess blowing on the cartridges does help when there's dust in it. Okay, so what's going to happen now? Thanks for that, Bunny. Liv Tyler. Fireflies! It's really weird seeing the planet without the clouds. Ooh! Ooh! It's a walkie thingy! Can I click the mailbox? I can't click the mailbox. Making my way downtown. Clouds are gone, fireflies all over the place. Ding-a-ding-ding-ding-ding. Little hut house. Ding-a-ding-ding-ding-ding. That's all I got, sorry. They put up a crime scene? Ah, oh, man, this is making me miss Act 1, 2, and 3. It's even the GPS! It's a house. Roxy! Sup? What did Roxy do? What's happening? You find a spunky babe in a cool blue outfit hanging out on your planet. She doesn't belong here. What the hell is going on? You wonder loudly. You interrupt the rogue team babe for answers. You mean girl. Rogue team girl. Sup? 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 I guess I'm probably supposed to move on. The subs don't seem to be doing nothing. Moving along. Roxy? Sup? What are you doing here? I thought you were going to see your denizen. I did. You did? Yeah. How'd it go? It went okay. Yeah? What happened? Oh, you know, ventured to spooky subterranean lair for a bit of cathartic and life-altering monster rail talk. Okay, that's a funny way of putting it, but yeah, me too. Yep, I figured your monster quest happened. I mean, once all the gross black shit disappeared and the wind started blowing like a motherfucker. What does your monster say? I mean, hey, maybe we should try to be more respectful about our god monsters. Her name is Nyx. Right. What did Nyx say? Did she speak in the weird babbly language that you could still understand somehow even though it made no sense? Fuck yes. Was downright incomprehensible in the most mysteriously understandable way. She told me this riddle thing that basically spread it all out for me, like what my options were and what would happen if I did the options and like the metaphysical and moral consequences of doing those options. Yeah, Typheus pretty much did the same thing with me. Typheus was the name of my snake monster, by the way. Ooh, you had a snake monster? Yes, he was awesome! So did Nyx give you some sort of challenge to overcome, which by doing so you would get in touch with your powers? Which enabled you to appear here by doing, like, this incredible voidy thing that let you phase out of existence and magically appear with me in this weird plane of reality? Oh, no. You pretty much just told me to fly to your planet. So I did. Huh. You mean, like, you just wrapped up your conversations with her, left her lair, and then flew to Loas? Yes. Okay. Laugh my fucking ass off. I know, right? What a quest. But when you think about it, it was totally the obvious thing to do. I didn't know it at the time, but you were going to make your whole planet disappear. So if I wanted to keep persisting through your history-altering hijinks, then all I had to do was come along for the ride. No monsterly night magics needed. Yeah, that makes sense. There were stipulations, though. Mad stips, if you will. Vis-a-vis buttloads of opaque goddess riddles. Right. You mean the choices thing. The choice thing? Yes. What were the mad stips? She said, keep in mind I am paraphrasing. If paraphrasing is even a thing you can do with stuff said in unfathomable monster jargon, that either I could stay behind and vanish into nothingness forever, and everyone in the new reality would inherit all the big-time responsibilities, including a version of myself who had no memory of any of this and never experienced all the loss and sadness I just went through, or I could go with you, but in doing so, everyone I loved would know that loss instead, whatever that means. Yeah, Typhus gave me almost the exact same sort of choice. Something about other people feeling the loss I felt if I accepted his challenge, which I'm sure is probably not good. But I mean, what else was I going to do? I couldn't just let things stay the way they were. Yes, exactly, her caveat sounded ominous as shit, but there was something that didn't sit well with me about doing nothing. Accepting her choice just felt right, you know? Yes. So, here I am? Yes. So it sounds like, based off of what Jade's story was, that the both of them and the new reality die. Everybody lives but them and the other reality. Because these from that reality are gonna poof, and that reality will still have them, but everybody will be all like, hey man, y'all have been dead for like 3 years, this is weird. And they're like, hey, well, we watched all of you die like 2 hours ago, so we're even. Anyway. I'm glad it worked out like this. I was fully prepared to do this alone, to hop around and change things in whatever way, and I would get to see my friends again, even if they don't remember all the same stuff I do, which was a lonely feeling, if that makes sense. But now I'll have someone else to remember the way things originally went. Word. Yes, word indeed. But I know what you mean. It's nice to have, like, a witness, I guess? Someone to authenticate the rough shit you went through, even if we never end up talking about it again. The fact that at least someone else knows makes it feel like it didn't all mean nothing? Right. Because if it all gets erased and put back all better, I don't think the stuff we went through and the feelings we had meant nothing. In my opinion, the feelings themselves and the way they shaped us, that all means something. Forget it. Talking out of my ass here. No, it makes sense. And anyway, if nothing else, everything that happened brought us here. The stuff we're about to do, whatever it is, wouldn't be possible otherwise, and that feels pretty important if you ask me. Fireflies all over the fucking place. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Got silhouettes, got salamanders, good shit. So, all that wind, that was you, right? Yes. I don't see any glitchy trash. I guess your humongous blowy spell did away with all that grody nonsense. Oh. Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't even notice until you just mentioned it, but yeah. I guess that dumb problem is finally busted. Thank God. For real. I heard music, too. Did I hear music? Yes, that was me, too. I was playing a magic organ. Oh, really? A relay. Yeah, see, there's this huge organ that is almost certainly what she said, wonk. Oh, shush. Anyway, this huge pipe organ, it let me play the breeze, so to speak. I think that was the only way to get rid of all those clouds and let the fireflies go home. This is their home, huh? I guess so? I'm surprised by how my quest turned out, too, to be honest. It is kind of bittersweet seeing all the Twinkly Herbert bros and sisters going home. Twinkly who? My pet firefly. I'm guessing this is where he was from. Oh. They all seem happy, though. Look at them all blinking away into the blank ass yonder. Or is it... yeah, blank ass yonder. Why is the sky blank, by the way? It's blank because it's... nothing. Nothing? Why is it nothing? Where even are we? It's nothing because we are literally nowhere. Okay, how can you tell it's actually a field of nothingness as opposed to just a bunch of regular empty space that happens to look vaguely neutral? How can I tell? I guess I just can. No, but how? Why don't you ask yourself? You're the one who asked me why it was blank in the first place. So why did you choose the term blank in your question? Damn! Owned at the philosophies. So owned. You'll find I'm the best there is at those. It's true. I'm always getting owned at those by you and your kin. Recently, your crazy dog sister was schooling me on perfectly generic cubes. You mean generic objects. Generic fort blocks. Yes. Now you are dropping truth bombs about blank skies on me? Shouldn't I be, like, innately stellar at this sort of stuff as a Void player? Must be coming off slow as fuck with the uptake here, aren't I? Not really. You seem pretty smart to me. I do? Yeah. You have a funny and snappy way of talking like Dave, but unlike that knucklehead, I sense that behind all your jokes you're probably some kind of brainiac like Rose. Wow. Don't get me wrong, I meant knucklehead in a good way. Dave is actually the best dude. You would like him. I bet you were correct. These fireflies are making me think there's stuff on my computer screen now. So Dave, he's my son, right? Ah. I mean, yes, pretty much. Honestly, it gets weird to think about all our relations in that way sometimes. I getcha. Like when I think about you and Wolfshape being the kids of Jane and Jake, I, oh my fucking god, that's so cute! So what is it you think's weird about Dave being my son? I think we should just change the subject. Alright, what were we talking about again? We were talking about blank skies and fort blocks and such. Oh yes. And you thought you should know more about things like that as a Void hero, which reminds me. Do you think you're any closer to making that alien egg? I mean, after seeing Nyx, did you feel like a power boost or anything? A power boost like Mega Man or... No, not like Mega Man. I mean like... You're asking me if she taught me to do the Voidy thing. Well, did she? Nah, dude, I told you. We did our chat in some horseshit elven baloney tongue, and she just told me to come here. Like, that's literally it. Go to planet if you want to live. So I did. There wasn't really any soul searching or getting in touch with my inner miracles. Oh, well, that's kind of a bummer. I hope you weren't shortchanged out of an important mystical and spiritual process of self-discovery. What? Sorry, it's just... Sometimes you sound so much like Jake, it's really quite uncanny, but yeah, I don't care about that, really. It was either take an uneventful, non-spiritual trip to a wind planet, or just stop existing altogether. I think I'll be fine without the self-discovery part. Yeah, wait. What if this was part of it? Part of what? Your quest, like, to be here and learn to use your powers better. We are kind of in a realm of literal nothingness right now. Maybe you'll be able to draw energy or inspiration from the void or whatever? Nyx! Why, you sly old bitch! Does that make sense? It kinda does. It kinda loads of does. Ah, sweet! I was just grasping at straws there, but now that you agree, I'm suddenly a lot more confident in my theory. Yeah, Jake. So why don't we try it out again? What, the egg? Like, right now? Sure. To be honest, I'm a bit sick of trying to summon that ugly damn egg. How about later? I'd rather just keep BSing with you for a while, rather than get right down to freaking business. I guess there's really no hurry. Not in this place, at least. I don't think this place has any bearing on other timelines. It's almost like taking a time out from our canonical lives. So, if you want it, you could just take as much time to practice here as you needed. I'm down as heck with that. Could use a breather from my canonical life. Me too, even though I'm not sure I have one anymore. That's a wall of text and a half. So this is probably a good stopping point for this episode. It's already been over half an hour. So this has been Anachi Sasuke. This was episode 130 of Let's Read Homestuck. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. I'll see you in the next episode. Later.